The key topics we are going to cover during the presentation are how the industry has moved from Western Hemisphere to Eastern Hemisphere, the twofold opportunity for Indian chemical industry arising out of China Plus One and global consolidations, specialty chemical at the forefront of value creation, White framework on evaluating specialty chemical industry, and finally, we will also present a case study on one of the portfolio companies. Next slide, please. Chemical is a large industry with application in everyday use products. The global size of the industry is around $4 trillion. The industry has and continues to witness manufacturing facilities shift from Western to Eastern Hemisphere due to higher labor and compliance costs. China has been a big beneficiary of this trend as its share has increased from being negligible in 1990 to approximately 37% in 2019. Today, China has emerged the largest producer and second largest consumer of the chemical in the world. Aided by strong domestic demand and relaxed environment norms, Chinese companies were able to achieve economies of scale and emerge as the global behemoth in the chemical industry. Next slide, please. This slide gives you an overview of how the chemical industry has evolved in China. During phase one, the focus of the government was on the growth at any cost. Growth was driven by strong incentives by the government. Previous slide, please. And reckless manufacturing standards. The state also provided capital subsidies that helped the company to operate at lower cost of capital along with lower operating costs. Chinese companies were not only enjoying higher export incentives, no, please go to previous slide, but also not investing in effluent treatment cost, which forms a large part of both capex as well as operational cost. Such reckless growth did not come without consequences, as lower compliance led to high pollution and forced the government to implement the blue sky policy. Relocation of toxic manufacturing plants to dedicated industrial park, along with higher operational and labor cost, drive out the cost advantage Chinese companies were enjoying until now. Now, this has created an enviable opportunity for India, which is perfectly positioned to emerge as preferred destination for the companies looking to diversify supply chain. Being pharmacy of the world, India has access to strong talent pool, which is not only skilled, but also available at lower cost, which enables manufacturers to provide quality products at competitive costs. We do believe that as per capita income will increase, it will lead to higher demand for value-added and premium products, as we have seen in China. Today, if you look at on the bottom left-hand side chart, you will see that India has lower per capita consumption of chemical compared to global average. However, as the per capita income will increase, we will see that the domestic chemical industry will grow at a faster pace. This will enable Indian companies to achieve scale and compete globally with China. Now, this optimism is also reflected if you look at on the bottom right-hand side chart. It is also this is a survey which is being conducted by a Japanese bank for its clients, where companies have shown commitment to expand relationship with India. Next slide, please. In our view, this creates a large and structural opportunity for India. Unfavorable policy in China and favorable government policies in India, such as self-reliance or Atmanirbhar, as well as PLI, which is Product Linked Incentive Scheme, which has been announced by the government to become self-reliant, at least in the key starting materials for chemicals and API. These will enable India to emerge as credible alternative to China. We believe that even if capacities in China to come back, however, they no longer enjoy the same benefit as they used to be in the past. As you can see on the table here, that India's relative competitive position has increased significantly across all the parameters, whether we talk about export incentives, labor, power cost, or effluent treatment cost. And as I highlighted earlier, that effluent treatment cost becomes a very, very large part of both capex as well as operational cost. Moving to the next slide. At the same time, India, unlike China, is emphasizing on sustainable manufacturing practices with strict implementations. Government has created dedicated manufacturing hubs for chemical industries and compulsory installation of ETPs at manufacturing sites. Further, most large manufacturers in India, I'm talking about chemical manufacturers in India, are REACH compliant, which is one of the most comprehensive frameworks in the world. While we do believe that China will continue to dominate the global chemical industry and no chemical company in the world afford to move out of China or leave China, however, even if India is able to gain a couple of percentage point incremental market share from China, given China plus one kind of an alternative or supply security, it will accelerate the growth opportunities for Indian companies for several years. As you see on the bottom right-hand side, the quote came from Mr. Pramod Thote, who is the president of FMC India, a large global agrochem company, that this is an opportunity for India to advertise itself as the next big destination for chemical manufacturing. Next slide, please. Global consolidation in the chemical space is leading to incremental growth opportunities for Indian companies. If you see over the last few years, we have seen a large number of M&A activities among the global agrochemical space, similar in line what happened maybe in pharmaceutical industry way back in 2007 and 8, where like Bayer has acquired Monsanto or Dow and DuPont, they came together, they have joined their hands together. In fact, all of these large multinational companies are struggling with the profitability, and the focus of these companies is turning more towards their core area and activities, which is the R&D or brand building, while they are outsourcing the manufacturing activities to low-cost destinations, which is evident from the bottom table, where you can see that many large Indian companies, the likes of Navin Fluorine, PI Industries, Aartis, Heikel, they have won multi-year kind of contracts from the large MNC companies over the past 12 to 18 months. Next slide, please. Indian companies are witnessing multiple growth opportunities. Despite doubling the capex over the last 5 years, if you see the capex of the Indian company on an average has gone up from 14 billion INR to almost around 34 billion INR. Indian companies are further accelerating their investment in building human, intellectual, and physical infrastructure, which impart greater growth opportunities going forward. Next slide, please. Chemical sector indeed is a heterogeneous sector, with each company having diverse business model and different set of opportunity and challenges. However, for our framework broadly, we divide the sector into two segments. One is like basic chemicals and specialty chemicals. As the name suggests, basic chemical or bulk chemical are high volume and low value commodity chemicals, which are being used as feedstock or starting materials for specialty chemicals. They have low entry barriers, and hence there is relatively a lower margin and efficiency of the capital. While specialty chemicals, on the other hand, are low volume and high value knowledge driven products that impart specific functional properties to end product. These are customized product and add high value to its customers. So if you look at companies like Navin Fluorine, PI Industries, and so on and so forth, are the companies which are operating today in the spec chem space in India. Now I turn the call to my colleague Sagar, who will talk about the Vitox specialty chemical framework and how we evaluate the company in this sector. Over to you, Sagar.
Hi, thanks Manoj, welcome all. Having looked at how the industry has been evolving over the past few years, we will now get into the framework that we've developed internally to evaluate businesses in the spec chem space. Can we move to the next slide, please? So this framework helps us to separate wheat from the chaff and has been developed by over the past few years by doing more than 50 plant visits and multiple management meetings. We will look at each of these parameters in detail and cover relevant examples as and when we go through the parameters. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the first thing that we look at, and this is extremely critical while evaluating any specialty chemical business, is that we look at the investments that the companies are making in capabilities. These capabilities could include intellectual capital as well as human capital. While these investments may adversely impact the margins in the near term, we are of the firm belief that they significantly enhance the intrinsic value of the business over a long period of time. At the same time, these investments are a reflection of the DNA of an organization, which is extremely difficult to replicate. As the complexity of molecules has increased with higher number of steps involved during synthesis, it has become imperative for companies to invest in intellectual capital. And they do so not only to stay on top of the curve, but also to enter newer areas of development. We have witnessed sharp jump in R&D expenses for companies looking to position themselves as for long-term value creation. And what this has also enabled these companies to do is to move higher up the value chain and come up with better processes that differentiate them globally and emerge as global leaders. These investments into R&D also create multiple optionalities in the business that can become large segments over a period of time. Let me illustrate with this with a couple of examples. Vinati Organics is a global benchmark for high purity standards. In one of the key products, ATBS, it has purity standard of 0.5% as compared to the global standard of approximately 3%. The company, through investing in R&D, has successfully formed an integrated model where it has continuously forward and backward integrated to focus on new products, and as a result have emerged leaders in bulk of its portfolio. Similarly, in Clean Science and Technologies, which a company that got listed recently, they have successfully changed its catalyst after investing years into R&D, and is the only global manufacturer which manufactures its products using anisole as compared to sulfuric acid, which is the conventional route used by a lot of its peers. This method of production ensures zero production of waste and byproducts, and has enabled the company to emerge as the leader in its portfolio in a very short span of time. Can we move to the next slide, please? Apart from intellectual capital, we also look at the investments that companies are making in human capital and across core areas like manufacturing, supply chain, marketing, and development. We have seen a handful of companies take a lead in this aspect by bringing in top talent from all across the globe, and more importantly, create the right incentive structures to keep them aligned to long-term value creation. As an example, under the able leadership of Radesh Welling, Naveen Fluorine has been one of the most aggressive employers in the country in the spec chem space. The company has brought in multiple influential people across areas, and as a result has created a formidable professional organization. Next slide, please. Thirdly, and very importantly, we look at companies which are focusing on emerging chemistries or where the existing chemistries are witnessing increasing applications. One of the big themes globally is that of decarbonization, and there is high focus on sustainable chemistries. And as a result, what we're seeing is that a lot of these companies are focusing on continuous flow chemistry, which basically enhances the yield of raw materials and reduces the wastages produced byproducts during the process. At the same time, large MNCs are focusing on greener solutions, as companies are incrementally substituting synthetic products with natural products, including enzymes and oleochemicals. This is illustrated on the slide, and we've taken snippets from the global presentation of consumer behemoths like Unilever and P&G, who've committed to shift away from petrochemicals to natural feedstock. This in turn is leading in increased demand for players which are focusing on green chemistries with various applications in diverse industries like textiles, automobiles, personal care, and pharmaceuticals. Let me give you a couple of examples of companies who are focusing on this particular aspect. One of the companies that we also hold in our portfolio is Fine Organics. It's one of the few players globally and India's largest manufacturer of oleochemical derivatives. Oleochemicals are chemicals, which are produced from natural sources like palm and kernel oil. And while derivatives, which is where fine organics participates in the value chain, are made from base oleochemicals. These derivatives are used to impart specific properties to a product. While base oleochemicals is a very competitive industry, additives is a global oligopoly dominated by 3 or 4 players. This is because it's a very tech-intensive business, and the process leads to many fractions or byproducts, which if not used efficiently, can lead to higher cost of manufacturing. Hence, what the company like Fine Organics has done is that they've been able to find uses for these byproducts through economies of scope and knowledge learning, and has not only been able to reduce costs, but has also been able to diversify into newer areas and industries. Additionally, product approval also is a time-consuming process, and given the low cost of oleochemical derivatives in the end product, there is very little incentive for a customer to switch suppliers. So this is where this is the area where Fine Organics operates in. Having started as a plastic oleochemical player, Fine Organics now has more than 400 products in its portfolio and has diversified into multiple areas like personal care, cosmetics, and food additives. There's another interesting company participating in this decarbonization theme. It's called Tattva Chintan. Tattva Chintan is the second largest player in structured directing agents, which find application in manufacturing of zeolites. So structured directing agents are basically like molecular sieve, which only let specific particles to pass through the pores in a zeolite. We are witnessing very strong demand for zeolites incrementally for sustainable solutions like NOx emissions, hydrogen fuel cells, biomass, energy storage. And as a result of all of this, we expect Tattva Chintan to benefit disproportionately from this structural theme. Next slide, please. Another very lucrative segment in the industry is that of contract research and manufacturing services. Now, this is a very high entry barrier business with a long gestation period. And the mode of competition in this industry is not price. If companies start competing on price, that's like bringing knife to a gunfight. Since you're working with innovators in this space, the companies compete on the basis of chemistry capabilities, economies of scale, economies of scope, regulatory track record, responsiveness, and relationships. Companies in this industry, operating in this industry, tend to also show very high non-linearity as they achieve a critical mass. But reaching that tipping point itself in the first place is a very time-consuming process. So let me give an example. And one of the finest examples of a company having built this segment is that of PI Industries. PI Industries was one of the first companies in India to enter the CSM space in about 1999 to 2000. After a very slow start, PI has successfully compounded its CSM business by 25% over the past 10 years. And with a current order book of $1.5 billion, the company has extremely high visibility on growth. And this is the aspect that I was talking about, where there is non-linearity in the business as you achieve certain scale. And as more molecules start going from the research phase to the commercialization phase, where the volumes increase 10x to 100x in some cases. We have also seen this play out in Navin Fluorine. They seeded their CRAMS business in 2011. And after years of investments into people, relationships, and capabilities, we believe that they seem to be at an inflection point in this business. Next slide, please. We also look at companies which follow good manufacturing practices and focus on EHS, environmental health and safety. Prior to investing in any company or in any chemical name, we ensure that we do a plant visit to get a sense of the practices being followed by the companies to discharge waste and how they treat effluents. Some of the companies that we have invested in the portfolio, in our opinion, follow best-in-class manufacturing practices with a flawless regulatory track record. Many of them have materially stepped up their investments in EHS and at the same time are also automating their plants so as to reduce manual intervention. An example of this would be a company like Aarti Industries, which focuses on benzene chemistry. The company has spent more than 250 crores over the past few years on effluent treatment plants, and now 18 out of its 21 plants have zero discharge facilities. Similarly, as you can see on the slide, Vinati Organics has been rated gold standards towards sustainability performance by EcoVadis and was in the top 2% of suppliers in all categories. Next slide, please. Lastly, we prefer companies which are globally competitive versus companies that are primarily focused on just the domestic market. We believe being globally competitive is a testament to the quality and the relationships that these companies have built over decades. As you can see on the slide, most of these companies have evolved their business models and continuously adapted to the changing requirements in the global landscape by putting in timely capex to cater to the requirements of their customers. To illustrate how we successfully have used this framework in one of our portfolio companies, Let's just go through a case study. Next slide, please. Next one. So Navin Fluorine is one of the largest players in fluorination in India. And fluorination is actually a very large market. It's valued at about $22 billion, and it's one of the fastest growing chemistries globally. And the reason for this is because of its lipophilic properties. Because of its properties, lipophilic properties, the efficacy of molecules that have an element of fluorine in it is significantly higher than other alternative chemistries. In fact, one out of every 3 molecule in R&D has an element of fluorine in it. Specialty fluoropolymers and higher value-added fluorine are also finding applications in various industries like automotive, renewable energy, and consumer electronics. To position itself to leverage this opportunity, Navin Fluorine has, having started as a commoditized business, over a period of time has seeded high value-added businesses, both organically and inorganically. For example, it entered the specialty chemical business in 2000 and entered the CRAMS business in 2011 through an acquisition. What we see as a result of great execution is that the contribution of high value-added products has increased to 61% in FY21 versus 23% in FY11. And this also reflects in higher margins and higher ROIC for the company, as you can see on the slide. The ROIC for Navin Fluorine has increased from about 12% in financial year 15. And as they've utilized their capacities and invested in capabilities, they've increased it to the ROIC to 29% in financial year 21. Can we go to the next slide, please? As mentioned earlier, Navin Fluorine is one of the most aggressive employers in the country and has been on a hiring spree over the past 1 year to really ramp up its capabilities across areas. They have recently hired a new CEO for its CRAMS business, thereby validating its commitment towards high value-added business. And they've also hired a lot of people across HR, business development, and marketing. The company is increasingly spending on R&D and is working on emerging applications like electric vehicles, 3D printing, and semiconductors. As a result of all these investments, we've seen Navin Fluorine bag a couple of large orders over the past few years. They won an order for a high performance product, which will add 1/3 of their FY21 revenue for the next 7 years. They've also set up a multi-purpose plant for 5 agrochemical intermediates and will set up dedicated plants in case any of these agrochem intermediates scale up materially. What's very important to understand is that the quality of contracts that are being awarded to Navin incrementally, the quality of contracts is upgraded significantly, as they are now the preferred suppliers for most of their customers as compared to being the second or the third supplier earlier. Navin Fluorine is also expanding capacities in specialty chemical, as they are getting a lot of inquiries from various customers in diverse industries like industrial, agrochem, and life sciences. As a result of this, the company has created significant value for its shareholders, and it has compounded by approximately 48% over the past 10 years and 53% over the past 5 years. And we are happy shareholders of the company. That is it from our side, and would be happy to take questions from the clients, if any.